an onboarding of 2 hours, it's not an onboarding. The onboarding should be easy to go, or that it's part of the game. Because sometimes we have seen clients and games that brings an onboarding of 2 hours. It's like, okay, if it has nothing to, it's not related to the history of the game, you are wasting my time because I'm not playing the game. I'm playing the tutorial, so that's not ideal.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the second episode of Game UX Alchemists. And today we're talking about a very interesting topic, which is what makes a great first-time user experience. Today we have a great panelist, as always, but we do have a new face today, Alex. Hello, Alex.
Hello.
Welcome to the Dream Team. But how's everyone today?
Feeling good.
Fine.
It's good because we have a lot of interesting things to talk about. Today's more of a continuation from what we spoke last episode when we touched upon first-time user experience. But this time, let's delve a bit deeper and talk a little bit more about it with some examples from your experience, guys. But let's start with some basics, let's say. What makes a good or bad first-time user experience? I know it's a big question, but in your experience, what are the most common traits of it?
Yeah, I mean, basically, as you said, it's a very important question, so not so basic. But yeah, let's go with that. Yeah, we'll start a bit with the good first-time user experience, or the basics of what it should have. At the end, the first-time user experience should be an introduction to the game, to experience, which should cover the basic mechanics that the player needs to know to be able to complete the mission of the game, or to complete the game, however you want to call it. And also not only the mechanics, but also of the story of what is the path that this player is going to go over during the next sessions, hours, depending how long the game is. And it should be easygoing, but in the same time, it should be interesting for the player. That will be the most basic way to say something about the first-time user experience.
Yes, I will say that the mechanics of the game should be taught like in a fun way, like woven with the story, not just thrown at them like big blocks of text or overloaded with information.
I think that as UX researchers, our main focus on a first-time user experience is to see how different is the mental model that the game designer thought the first experience would be and the actual experience of players, and bringing them together and see like, okay, what worked, what failed, where players put their attention. Is that the thing that they should pay attention to, or is there something different, and what is it? Sort of to let the developers know that, hey, this is the thing that is actually happening as the players play, not the thing you thought it would happen, or if they are the same or not.
And regarding the mental map of the players you mentioned, it's important that the first user experience has different approaches of the hardcore players that have experience with your game or similar games, and also for new players that are starting in this genre, in this type of game. So it has to be a mix of that. It should be for everyone. It's not like, okay, if you are pro, you can skip it. And if you are the first time player, it won't be enough. You have to find a balance for both players, for both type of players to be able to complete and understand and the mechanics and have fun as they play it.
And that it doesn't feel like the game is holding the player's hand. No one likes to be told what to do. Players have to figure it out in an intuitive way and fun way. What the game is about and the story, the mechanics, the game itself.
Yeah, that's the issue with I have the issue with my mobile games, that normally they are a lot more guided, and it's like, you have to do this, you have to do that, and you're just pressing everywhere in the screen just because you are being told. You are not reading anything of the game. And then when the tutorial stops, like, okay, I spent 10 minutes just tapping on my screen. I don't know what to do. I don't know what have I done. But hey, the tutorial is complete. I should know how to play. And that's not the case. That's my main issue with normally the Mafia Cities game and stuff like that, that it just click, click, click. And you just 5 minutes there without knowing what you're doing.
What would be...
Go ahead. Sorry.
No. It's okay.
You can go, Alex. He was changing.
No. I was just gonna say, it's just like Lucy said. The game holds your hand for so long that when they let it go and let you play, you don't actually know what you're doing. They have just bombarded you with information, and when you have the freedom to play, you just don't know what to do anymore.
Yeah. And in both of the examples that you mentioned, hand holding and the usual tutorial for mobile games, what would be the best way, in your opinion, to improve the onboarding experience for players?
Yeah, I think the onboarding, it shouldn't be like something separate of the game. It should be part of the game. Mm-hmm. We have examples. One of the classics that I always use for this is Portal, that since the moment that you launch the game, you are in the tutorial. You are just completing levels. You are learning new mechanics, new guns, how to use each portal and stuff like that. But it does not feel like you are in the tutorial because it's the game. And the thing is, you cannot differentiate when the tutorial finishes and when you are playing, because that's how an onboarding should be done. Like, okay, the player doesn't should feel the difference between one thing and the other. This way, as we said before, and Lucy also, the history of and having fun, it's part of that process. If not, it feels like, okay, I'm doing just some task because I'm a noob that doesn't know how to play, and I have to be separate for everyone or from the history because I don't know have the experience, I don't have how to move and stuff like that.
And you mentioned something last week that's stuck with me since then. You gave an example that the first 30 minutes when you're playing a new game are the most important. It will determine whether you will carry on playing or go and try something else. So in your guys' opinion, what should the first 30 minutes include? So what I mean by that, what game should have to increase the probability of players engaging in the long term?
I think that in the first 30 minutes, the game should show the player engagement hooks, let's say. So like the mechanics, of course, these are a big deal. A good tutorial, like we mentioned earlier, some tips. The storyline as well should be interesting enough for the player to keep on wanting to know more about the game.
Yeah, at the end is what you said right now in the progression as a player. In the middle, at the end, or the start, you want to progress to be able to succeed in your tasks, in your missions. It's important that the player feels rewarded. And again, you have to find the right balance between being rewarded and being too rewarded. Because if you are like one step, oh, congratulations, you have done your first step. Oh, you have moved your left hand. You have just pressed A. It's like so much rewarded that it's like, okay, you are just...
you feel like silly, right?
Yeah, you're lying to me.
Maybe, yes.
I'm feeling like a stupid right now, and it's too much. Like, okay, I want to be rewarded for things that...
For the effort you put.
Yeah, for the effort, exactly.
I know what you mean. I played a few games like that. Yeah, it made me feel like I'm a toddler. So I understand.
Exactly.
I was going to ask, like, what would be the content or of a good tutorial? Like he mentioned things like not to say the basic things, but which things, if we can say, like in a general perspective, right? Because each game is different, but what things or what type of content could be included in the game? We said hand holding the player.
I mean, what you said at the end, each game is different, and each designer has a target in mind. So there's like this range of how much you can help those players. It's not the same a Mario game that it's, although many people buy it, it's a more familiar, more younger audience, like the new Pokemon, stuff like that, than compared to Elden Ring, that it's for more mature, hardcore. So you have to try that also be to the target you're looking for. But at the end, the first time user experience is showing the mechanics of the game, the boarding, to make sure that the end player is able to complete the game. And bringing the end player, the target that you have in mind, then they match your profile. As I said, if any of us go to play any of the last Pokemons or the new Marios and stuff like that, it's very easy for us, but not for a 4 year, 5 years old player. Mm-hmm. But if we go for an Elden Ring, here we have many different ranges of gamer profiles, and maybe for someone it's like too simple, but for someone else it's like very complete onboarding.
So of course, creating the onboarding experience, having in mind the player that you are targeting.
Exactly. Yeah, and what Alex said before, the mental map of the player that you play that plays, and also the design you have in mind. At the end, you cannot change everything because it's okay. This player, one player said this. It's not who I'm going to sell this game to. What's the profile? Find real players. That's the thing that we always mention. Also,
not your friends, not the
exactly, not your friends. Real players that will be your end players, and check with them if they are understanding the game.
I would add that it's not only important to teach and show the mechanics of the game, but to also make sure that players do really understand how to use them and when to use them. We've had many tests here in the laboratory where players were shown a mechanic to, like, 30 seconds later maybe be shown another mechanic and completely forget about the first one. So we would see them struggle for 30 minutes, 1 hour, because they didn't remember a basic action of the game, which of course made it very difficult for them to keep playing or to understand the game. They think maybe the game is broken, it's a bug, whatever. No, it's just that they haven't really insisted upon this specific mechanic that is very important to the game. So if you only show the mechanic and don't make sure that the player understands it, that could be a very catastrophic mistake.
Exactly. And also, I think that although tutorial shows a mechanic, it's not like I teach you one time and you have to, and it's done. Apart from what you have said, that make sure that they understand it. Having reminders in the game on how to perform actions, it's useful. The typical press the E to open door. If you have a small visual prompt every time you walk to the door, for players that already know that action, they will visually ignore the prompt. But for those that don't remind, because I've been 3 months since I've not played this game and I left in the middle of the adventure and I want to continue, I will be able to continue because they will also help me remember what they already teach me.
And this helps with the cognitive load as well. So players don't have to actually remember everything that the game has taught to them. But in case showing these tiny cues will make them enjoy more the game, not being forced to remember things. Accessibility here. Subscribe.
Yeah. It's interesting things you guys mentioned about the good and the bad things that happens in the first time user experience. But a lot of our audience who UX researchers and producers who might be interested in finding out this specific elements you talked about, I'm guessing the best way would be to conduct playtests. But we conduct a lot of them at Antidote. And based on your experience, what do you think would be how does the process look like, just to give like a rough picture to our audience, including some non-negotiable steps that you would include to get the best insights?
I mean, one thing that I will say it, an onboarding of 2 hours, it's not an onboarding. The onboarding should be easy to go, or that it's part of the game. Because sometimes we have seen clients and games that brings an onboarding of 2 hours. It's like, okay, if it has nothing to, it's not related to the history of the game, you are wasting my time because I'm not playing the game. I'm playing the tutorial. So that's not ideal. And for me, that's one of the most important, that make it fresh, make it easy to go. What I want to say is a recap of what we have been already telling. Is that one thing it's teaching, and the other is making sure that the players understand, as Alex said before, that I can say, hey, press G to perform this action, and then press R to perform that action. No, I want to make you understand what you are doing, that you know that in the future, that when you are in this situation, you will be able to do it. So the thing is, I don't want to show. I want to make sure you understand the final actions. And how do you do that? With real examples of situations they will find in the real game. As I said before, if you are just sending a lot of information with a lot of tasks to do that it's not related to the game, it's like, okay, I don't see the connection. I won't be able to perform the action in the correct time, because you are not teaching and making me understand the mechanics. Sorry.
And for play instructions specifically, would you recommend to guiding them or what they need to look out for in the beginning, or like setting specific instructions?
In a real game, you mean?
Yes.
More than instructions, it's like having tasks and that they can fulfill with knowledge they learn in the game. It's not like the typical thing that it's moved with the W with keyboard arrows. Like, okay, yeah, I have to teach you, but make it more dynamic. So it's not like just a text of how to do it. Show me, make it part of the game. It's like, don't give me an instruction of press W. Build this thing, and then you can give me some tips on how to do that thing.
Hands-on experience.
Exactly.
And in terms of the timing, I understand that every game or project might be different, but how long should the first time user experience playtest last to get maximum insights?
I mean, as I said, for me, Portal, it could be considered a full tutorial. So that's depending on how you perform it. But as I said before, having a 2 hours specific tutorial, it's too long. I would go with something like 30 minutes or even shorter if it's possible. You mentioned it before, Alim, that the 30 minutes it's the most important one, the first 30 minutes, because it's the first experience, or the first time that you see the game, that you interact with this game. And you want to make sure that the player enjoys and engages with this game. So you cannot having them like, okay, do this to pick an axe, to do that because it's having to follow tasks, it's boring. And for 99% of the population worldwide. So yeah, I think it's make it as short as possible, but making sure that you can teach and the correct mechanics they need. I will do the short answer. How does the tutorial of the client last? 30 minutes. Then the session should be 40 to 45 minutes to make sure that players that don't have experience can complete it. Because at the end, if you think that it will last 30 minutes, you have to think, okay, plus 10, 15 minutes for the noob ones, less 10, 15 minutes for the experts.
And would you leave some time to players play on their own in the game itself? So after the onboarding finishes, we let them play the actual game without being in the tutorial.
I think that actual game, playground, or something that it's a different part and they don't have instructions, it would be great. So they can just, you can test that what you have teach 5 minutes ago.
Actually,
Are they actually doing it or not? Because sometimes it's what it's that we have seen it that, okay, let's check this first time user experience. Oh, players enjoy it, players understand it. Yeah, but are we checking that they still understand what they have to do?
Mm-hmm.
A great example of what John just said just came to my mind is on the game Stacklands, which has very simple mechanics. It's just clicking on cards and moving cards along the board. So to teach the mechanic, it's like 2 minutes. In 2 minutes, you know how to play, but the dynamics which each card, where you put each card does, that's where the juice of the game is. So in this context, it's not about how you're teaching the game, because the controls, the mechanics are really simple. But the interesting thing to observe is what players do with a simple mechanic, what their logic behind their movements or the reasoning of what actions they take. And I think that could be also, it's not as an onboarding as is, but I think it can be very interesting for developers to know what players' instincts or reasonings are for doing X action.
I know you mentioned on that earlier, Costa, but what exactly did Portal make? How did it make such a great onboarding for you?
Yeah, the thing is that it's great onboarding because it doesn't feel like an onboarding. That's what I always say about this game, Portal, that when you start playing, there's at no time you feel like, okay, I've done all the tutorials, I'm starting playing the main game. Because every new room that you play, in the first one, they teach you mechanic, then you have to get one weapon, you have to get the secondary portal, stuff like that. So each part of the game with experience and the history of the game. It's not like, okay, here you have a portal weapon. You shoot with the right click, you shoot, okay, tutorial done, jump to the puzzle. No, it's like you are already in the puzzle in the first moment and you are completing puzzles, and every time you get more experience or you get new abilities or skills or weapons, and you are just learning by the go. And also, there's no moment that it tells you, hey, this new blue thing, it does this. No, you go to a new room and there's something, a new item that you haven't seen, that it's already interacting with the wall, and you learn how to do it because it's already being applied. It's not like, okay, this cube, it's to do that. No, you already seen it. So there's no moment that it feels that they are teaching you. They are showing you how to do it. So it's also easier to understand.
Maybe I should go and play. After this,
everyone should play Portal.
Yeah.
Players naturally learn by experimenting in a controlled environment, right?
Exactly, and also seeing how the world interacts teach you. It's a typical thing. The kids when exactly, and when the babies and everything, when they see something, it's reacting. They understand it. If you tell to a baby, "Hey, don't touch the table because it's hot," they will touch it anyways. If they see you that you're touching and you're reacting, they won't touch it. So at the end, we're still small babies.
Yeah. I love the example of hot table in particular.
I have a table in front of me. What can I say?
No, that's cool. You mentioned a good example of Portal. Do any of you guys have an example of a bad first-time user experience that the game did?
I have one bad example, but I don't know if it is still active. But Valorant, at least when they launched it, it had like a weird tutorial.
Yeah.
That it was like single player, just like one corridor that you have to shoot there, throw a grenade, stuff like that. That it doesn't have anything similar to the main goal. It's like, okay, you have now learned how to move. You have learned how to press WASD. Now go in a shooter mobile style between other players with mechanics that you haven't seen before. And it's like, okay, you are not preparing me to play the game, because you are teaching how to play any game. It's shooting and moving. And it's like, I've been playing shooters for many years, and I'm feeling like stupid right now because this tutorial, I'm wasting like 30 minutes or 15 minutes. I don't know how long it is doing that.
So it was too basic, that one.
Yeah, it was
that
too
every
basic.
player should knows
Exactly.
about this.
It was too basic, and it was not related, at least for what I remember, with the game, because Valorant, it has each hero has it just skills, different attacks, like the grenade, the smoke, like the drone, stuff like that. And the tutorial was like, okay, move, shoot, throw a grenade, kill yourself, and this is the ultimate attack. Yeah, but for that, don't teach me anything.
Yeah, the thing I was talking earlier, that the game showed you some mechanics, but it didn't really give you time to process that mechanic. And like minutes later, a short timer later, they show you a new one. So you completely forget about this one. I would say that's a bad example of a thing to say. Like, first, reassure the player on how a mechanic works, and then teach the player new one and reassure. Like this iteration process, you know how to jump, okay, then move and jump, but you're still jumping, you know? So it's progressive. Don't just switch to another thing because the player will forget. But yeah, that's the thing we were talking about earlier. So
yes, being
I
bombarded
don't know, it's
with information, missions, things on screen, right?
Yeah.
Too many things.
We could also see the evolution on Zelda, for example. The first Zelda game was widely known for having a really weird onboarding. Like, you just spawn in, no story, no context. You're just in the map, and there's a cave. You enter in the cave, and they give you a sword, but they don't tell you, okay, you should go to the screens to the right, to the left. You just go and explore. And if you see modern Zelda games, when you go to a quest objectives, which normally are usually very visible in the map, when you exit that objective, you clearly see the next objective on the game and the final objective. So, for example, when you get out of the cave in The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, you see the game tells you, talk to the old man, and you see to the right or to the left, I don't remember, but you see the old man camping, cooking something like 50 meters away. And then far away, you see the castle of Hyrule. They start by not giving you any directions, but as games progress and iterate, and these progresses become more refined, I'd say that's a nearly perfect or very good example on how to show you where you have to go, like a very good example on player guidance.
Yeah, but now you have talked about the first Zeldas that you don't have idea where to go and stuff like that. And I've been thinking also, like, for example, the first Marios, that you just appear in the wall, and the only visual cue that for you to know that you have to go right, it's because Mario is looking to the right, because they're starting for the basic. And nowadays it's something so normal that we don't think that Mario can go to the left. It's just going to the right. The thing, these old school games, yeah, it's true that we have adapted. But I don't know if it's nostalgic, but having no guidance at all in those games is like, that was kind of cool.
I think it's somewhat different on Zelda and Mario. I think both are very good games, of course.
Yeah, it's completely different games, completely different, yes.
There have been essays on, I'm blurry again, okay? Camera, please, focus. Okay, sorry. There have been essays, hour-long essays, on how the first 20 seconds of the first Mario games are a prime example on player guidance, on how to show you how you should do things. But I think there's a big difference on the first Mario and the first Zelda. It didn't work quite well, but they have refined that formula and now it works magnificently.
And in terms of the playtest that we did for our clients, you mentioned before that first-time user experience is one of the most requested services that we help with. Based on your experience, can you remember any examples which projects did well and not well, the first-time user experience?
Okay, yeah, I think, let me think. Yeah, there's a VR game that we tested, so I think last year or something like that, that I played it because I have to check before just launching the game. Like we always validate the game, we always make sure that everything is working, and if we like the game, we just complete all the process. That it was something completely different from the tutorial itself. It's a very popular game, and everyone knows what you have to do. So, and what you're expecting in the tutorial. So you were in a different type of environment with tasks that I haven't done before in this same game, but for the full PC version. And it was like, okay, I'm just playing the real game or not. Then I checked, and yeah, they end up doing a lot of changes in the tutorial because you had to do some tasks that, although related with the topic of the game, they were not tasks that you will do in the real game. So it's like wasting the time of the player, and also being VR, I was just getting sick as very, very much sick, almost throw up and everything, because it was like, apart from not having a good real experience, it's not well designed in terms of everything else. And yeah, they end up editing all the process and doing it completely different.
Do you think that the devs, as this is a cross-platform game, already think that players who play this game already knows the mechanics, so they don't teach them well, or something like that? Because I know this game has been out for ages, so.
But this is
like what we spoke in the beginning, right?
That's a very bad assumption, because you cannot say that.
That's
okay,
not, but of course it's not. But like this game has been out for ages.
Yeah, but it's like
still so complicated.
I suppose they didn't think of that. Maybe they had something different in mind for the game, and they did for what people wanted in the game. And it's like, okay, we started with one process here, one process there, and when matching everything together was not related. I want to think that it was more like that than just ignoring new players, and for that reason doing a completely random tutorial on onboarding.
Yes, I just found one. I just remembered one that we play tested a while ago. It was a space exploration game, and yeah, some features were not fully explained in the game. So players, talking about what we spoke earlier, players that already knew the first game of this series were aware of the features and the core mechanics, but the new players in the second game were not aware of what they had to do and all the research they had to do. So this would lead, of course, to frustration. And yes, adding a detailed tutorial like we mentioned earlier will help introduce the mechanics to new players and remind the mechanics to the players that were already part of your crew.
Yeah. And I have another example now that you mentioned, because I was thinking of previous playtests when in fact today I was finishing a report for a first time user experience. And now that you mentioned the new players and the old players, this is the second release of a saga. And one thing that I really like and enjoy and like to see when I do this type of reports, user experience and checking the difference of the new versus old players, it's like, okay, in this case, you're like the new players and the old players are having a very similar experience in terms of understanding and terms of being able to complete and the mechanics, the history, all the surroundings, because it's very well teach on how to perform and the certain tasks, and the difference between the new players and the experienced players, it's very minimal in terms of, okay, maybe some of the new players enjoy something less or more, or have the expectations a bit higher, and then it's something they prefer from the first one, but they define very correctly all the process, and it's something that it shows that the onboarding is very well thought and designed.
Well, guys, it was nice to speak to you. Again, every time I speak and we discuss, I personally learn a lot of things. And you know me, I always enjoy speaking to you. But we had some great discussion today. It was nice to see Alex as well this episode. Thanks for coming. And I would love to say what's the topic of next week, but we haven't decided yet. So stay tuned. But in the meanwhile, make sure to subscribe, like, and if you have any specific topics you would want us to discuss, just leave it in the comments or message one of the team members. We promise to get back to you. But anyways, it was great to see everyone. We'll catch you next time.
Thank you, Lim.
Thank you for having us.
It was great.
Bye bye.
Bye.